Disclaimer: this content is intended for mature audiences only. My name is Sharon. I'm 52 years old. And I swear I wasn't always like this. Her voice trembles just slightly. She's sitting alone on a creaky wooden porch swing, eyes fixed on the lake like it might give her a different version of the truth. I used to be kind. I used to bake muffins for new neighbors. I used to be fun. And God, I used to feel loved. She runs her hands over the hem of her cardigan, neat, pressed, a little too perfect. But lately, I just feel invisible. Sharon's marriage used to feel like a steady fire, not flashy, not fireworks, but warm and safe. Her husband, Dale, used to pull her into the kitchen and slow dance to whatever was playing on the radio. He used to grab her hand under the table during dinner parties, or sneak kisses on the back of her neck when she was watering the plants. Now his kisses feel routine. Quick. Mechanical. Last week, he kissed her cheek before work and she couldn't tell if it was affection or habit. They still cuddle on the couch, but she notices how his hand rests more like a placeholder than a desire. Even his hugs, tight, firm, sometimes feel like he's holding on to an idea of her, not her. I keep wondering if it's me, she says quietly. Maybe I'm the one who disappeared. She joined the HOA 3 years ago, just a few meetings at first. Something to do. Something to feel in control of. It gave her a sense of order when everything else started to feel messy and unclear. When new people moved into the neighborhood, she made welcome baskets. She tracked local violations like overgrown lawns and parking habits. She told herself she was protecting the community. But if she's honest, it made her feel powerful in a way she hadn't in years. So when she saw the man hauling boxes into that cabin, the one no one told her had been sold, she felt the flicker of something sharp and hot. Not quite rage. Not yet. But close. That land was under the HOA's care. 4 years. No one moves in without telling us. Without telling me. She didn't expect the police to side with him. She didn't expect the daughter to. He's a firefighter. Sharon's eyes flicked toward the photo on the mantel. Dale, grinning in his heavy gear, soot on his cheeks, arms wrapped around a stray dog he rescued. Everyone loves Dale. And she means that. She really does. He's brave. Dependable. The kind of man who shows up. He remembers birthdays. He fixes porch lights and brings home Thai food without being asked. He's good. But good isn't the same as present. He kisses her neck every morning like he used to, but sometimes she flinches, not because it's unwelcome, but because it feels too soon. Like he's skipping the part where she needs to be seen first. Last Thursday, she sat on the edge of their bed, hands in her lap, eyes red-rimmed from holding back tears. She waited for him to ask her what was wrong. He didn't. He just came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist, pressing his lips against her shoulder. "Hey, you smell like lavender," he whispered. She didn't answer. "You know I love you, right?" She nodded. But it didn't land. Not really. Because loving her had started to look a lot like patting her on the head and walking away. They used to really laugh, about stupid things. How the dog only barked at squirrels wearing hats on TV. How Dale insisted pineapple absolutely did belong on pizza. But now, even their laughter feels like someone else's memory. Last week, she tried to bring it up, not the whole thing, just a piece of it. "Do you ever feel like we're off?" she asked him as they unloaded groceries. He glanced over, juggling a bag of oranges. "Off like we forgot something?" She wanted to scream. "Not off like we forgot eggs. Off like I can't feel your heart anymore when you touch me." Instead, she just forced a smile. Never mind. And so she threw herself deeper into the HOA. The meetings. The complaints. The rules. It was the only place people listened to her. Where her voice held weight. When she saw that man, the one with the U-Haul and the flannel shirt, she felt it again, the raw indignation of being ignored. Of being bypassed. He looked just like Dale had 20 years ago, strong jaw, warm smile, a little too sure of himself. And something in her snapped. The moment it all shifted? It wasn't the cop visit. It wasn't the cease and desist. It wasn't even the ripped-up flower beds. It was when Dale came home that night, sweaty from a 12-hour shift, and kissed her cheek out of habit. She pulled away slightly, just an inch. He didn't notice. He just said, "What's for dinner?" and walked past her. That's when she realized, he didn't know she was drowning. And she didn't know how to scream without making herself the villain. Would you like the next section when the revenge kicks in and her world starts to unravel, not just in the neighborhood, but in her marriage too? Absolutely. Here's a continuation that captures Sharon's emotional confusion and resentment, showing the growing disconnect between physical affection and emotional need. It focuses on the emotional weight of everyday intimacy that no longer feels safe. Scene: the kitchen. Late evening. The kitchen smells like basil and garlic. The pasta pot is steaming, and the only light comes from the low-watt bulb above the stove. Sharon stands barefoot, stirring sauce, lost in thought. Her cardigan sleeves are pushed up. Her shoulders are tense. Dale comes up behind her quietly and places both hands on her hips. "Smells amazing," he says, pressing a kiss to the side of her neck. She doesn't react. Not visibly. But inside, her stomach twists. He runs his hands along her waist and gives her a light smack on the butt, playful. Familiar. The kind of thing he's always done. But tonight, it makes her skin crawl. She stiffens just slightly. Just enough. He doesn't notice. Or maybe he pretends not to. "You're quiet," he says, leaning against the counter beside her. "Everything okay?" She nods, too quickly. "Yeah. Just tired." He watches her for a second, then reaches for a bowl and starts serving the pasta. They sit down at the table. The clink of forks and low hum of crickets outside are the only sounds. Dale takes a bite and smiles. "This is really good, babe." She forces a smile back. "Thanks." Halfway through dinner, he reaches across the table and touches her hand. His thumb brushes against her knuckles, slow and warm. "You know I still think you're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, right?" The words hang in the air. She wants to believe him. She wants to feel something, anything. But all she feels is the weight of pretending. Of performing intimacy she no longer understands. She pulls her hand back under the table and folds it in her lap. He frowns. "What's going on with you lately?" "Nothing," she says. I don't know. I'm not in the mood for that." "For what?" His tone is still soft, but there's a flicker of defensiveness now. She doesn't answer. She stares down at her plate. "I wasn't trying to start something," he says, his voice quieter. "I just wanted to tell you I love you." She wants to scream, then say something real. "Ask me how I'm doing. Ask me why I don't sleep through the night anymore. Ask me why I've started crying in the pantry." But she doesn't. She nods, not meeting his eyes. "I know." Later, when he leans in to kiss her goodnight, his lips warm and gentle, she lets it happen. But all she can think is, why does everything have to turn into sex? Would you like to continue into a scene where she confronts this question either in a conversation, a journal entry, or a breaking point moment? Of course, here's the next part of Sharon's emotional journey. Time has passed since the outburst. What remains is the quiet, the ache, and a new kind of silence between them. The focus here is on emotional distance, not hostility, and explores mutual loneliness in the same house. Scene: 3 weeks later, stillness. The house had gone quiet. Not in the comforting, lazy Sunday kind of way. No music from the Bluetooth speaker. No playful teasing while brushing teeth. Just the sound of drawers opening. Forks clinking. The occasional throat clear or faucet hiss. Sharon watched Dale from the doorway as he stood at the sink, rinsing out his coffee mug. He still wore his sleep shirt, the one with the little hole near the shoulder. She used to tease him about it. She used to fix it in the laundry and smile when he wore it again anyway. Now, she just watched his hands. Strong hands. Careful hands. The same ones that once cradled her face like it was something sacred. He didn't look up. Seen, later that day, passing each other like strangers, they passed in the hallway, her with a laundry basket, him with his gym bag. Neither said anything beyond, "Hey. Hey. That used to mean I missed you. Now it just meant I acknowledge your existence." She waited until she heard the door click shut before she sank to the stairs and let the warmth drain from her face. Her arms curled around the basket like a shield. She missed him. Not just the affection, the little touches, or the shared bed, but him. The man who knew when she was lying, who'd once left work early because she texted, "I don't feel like myself today." Now he didn't even ask what her days were like. But she hadn't asked about his, either. And that's when she noticed it, the sag in his shoulders when he thought she wasn't looking. The quiet dinners he still made. The way he folded her cardigans before putting them in the laundry pile. He hadn't stopped caring. He just didn't know where to place his love anymore. Seen, one night, trying to watch TV, they sat side by side on the couch. A rerun of something light played in the background, something they used to watch together, shoulder to shoulder, legs tangled. Now, there were 3 inches of cushion between them. Dale cleared his throat. "This episode's still funny." Sharon smiled faintly. "Yeah." He glanced at her. "You okay?" She nodded. But her throat was tight. And her chest ached. And when she reached for his hand, her fingers stopped halfway and curled into her lap instead. Her inner monologue, alone in the bedroom, she stood in front of the bathroom mirror, her mascara untouched, pajamas rumpled. She looked like someone she wouldn't invite to her own life. "I pushed him away," she whispered. He hadn't punished her for it. Hadn't yelled or thrown it back in her face. But he had retreated quietly, respectfully, like someone leaving a room they weren't welcome in. And maybe he was welcome. Maybe she just hadn't known how to say it. She closed her eyes and let her hand rest on the counter, steadying herself. "Do I want to fix this?" she asked herself. "Do I want to keep loving him even if it's messy and slow and uncertain?" Her heart answered before her mind did. Yes. But not like before. Not pretending. Not just going through motions. Real. Honest. Risky. She opened the bedroom door slowly and glanced down the hall where the light still glowed under the den. 1 step forward. Would you like the next scene to show her making the first move, maybe a vulnerable conversation or small gesture, and how Dale responds? Or should we build toward the fallout in the neighborhood next, using her internal shift to shape what happens with the HOA drama? Here's a grounded, bittersweet continuation leaning into the tone of the title. HOA: Karen called cops when I moved boxes into my daughter's lake cabin, so I banned her HOA forever. The title suggests a story of control, isolation, and ultimately, consequences. So in this version, the couple doesn't quite make it back. They share a moment, real, tender, but it's no longer a beginning. It's an ending done gently. Scene, late night, the den. She padded down the hallway in her socks, heart pounding in her ears. The light under the den door was still on. He never used to stay up this late. Not unless he couldn't sleep. She paused at the doorway. Dale sat on the couch, one leg folded under him, the TV flickering quietly. He wasn't watching it. Just staring. A half-full glass of water sat on the table beside him. His eyes moved to her when she entered. He didn't speak. Neither did she. She sat on the edge of the couch beside him, knees turned inward, hands in her lap. They both stared at the muted television. After a long pause, she said quietly, "I miss you." Dale's shoulders dropped, like he'd been holding his breath. "I know," he said. "I miss you too." Another silence. This one warmer. Full of things they didn't know how to say. Sharon took a deep breath. "I don't think I knew how lonely I was. Not until I made everything about rules and fences and neighborhood drama." He gave a small, tired smile. That thing with the guy in the boxes? I went overboard, she said. I think I just needed somewhere to feel in charge of something. Anything. Dale looked at her, really looked. His eyes were soft, sad. I should have seen it sooner. But I didn't know how far apart we'd gotten until we were already quiet. She nodded. A tear rolled down her cheek, but she didn't wipe it away. He reached out and placed his hand over hers. Warm. Familiar. She didn't pull away. I still care about you, he said. She leaned her head gently on his shoulder. He rested his cheek against her hair. They stayed like that a long time. Silent. Still. But they both knew something had broken. Not in anger. Not in betrayal. Just time. Distance. Silence that lasted too long. Eventually, she stood up and kissed the top of his head, soft and lingering. I think I'm going to sleep in the guest room tonight, she said, voice steady. He nodded once. Okay. She paused in the doorway. I'll always be grateful for you, she said. Even if we can't find our way back. His eyes didn't leave the floor. Same here. Scene, a few days later, the lake cabin. Sharon sat alone on the porch, her daughter's dog curled up beside her, a mug of tea in her hands. The lake was quiet. The air smelled like pine and early fall. The boxes were finally unpacked. There was no HOA here. No rules. No neighborhood to monitor. Just the creak of the wood, the distant call of a loon, and the soft ache of endings. And beginnings. Would you like an epilogue, maybe a small encounter with the man again, or a moment where she reflects on who she's becoming? Or would you prefer to leave it here, with open threads and space for interpretation? Absolutely. Here's the final moment. Sharon, older and quieter now, speaking directly to the listener as if letting you in on something raw and hard-earned. It closes the loop, not with triumph or tragedy, but with truth. Final scene, direct address, porch of the lake cabin. Sharon sits in a weathered chair, wrapped in a thick cardigan, the lake still behind her. Early morning fog lifts slowly off the water. A chipped mug rests between her hands. She looks directly at the camera. Her voice is calm. Reflective. No bitterness. Just truth. Sharon, softly, I used to think love was about being chosen. About someone reaching for you at the end of the day, pulling you close, kissing your shoulder, wanting you. I thought if that part went away, everything else would too. She pauses. Glances down at the rim of her mug. But now I know it's more complicated than that. Desire isn't just about bodies. It's about being seen. Heard. It's about feeling like someone's hand is on the door to your heart, not just the light switch in your bedroom. She gives a quiet, breathy laugh. I pushed him away. Then I waited for him to fight his way back. But love doesn't always come back on command. Sometimes it just stands at the edge of the room, waiting to be let in. And by the time you realize it, the room's already empty. Her smile fades. Not sad, just honest. We were good people. We just got lost. He needed closeness to feel safe. I needed space to feel seen. Neither of us knew how to ask for what we really wanted without sounding ungrateful. She looks out at the lake for a moment, then back. I learned something in all this. That you can miss someone and still know you were right to let go. That you can love someone deeply and still grow in opposite directions. And that sometimes, peace isn't the feeling of coming home. It's the feeling of stopping, of no longer begging to be understood by someone who doesn't know how to ask the right questions. She tilts her head slightly. Voice even lower now. Like a secret. The next time someone touches me, I hope it feels like a question. Not a conclusion. A long silence. The camera slowly pulls back as Sharon turns her face to the breeze, eyes closed. The mug warm in her hands. The lake steady and wide. Fade to black. Let me know if you'd like a version where she does reconnect with the man, or one where we see her begin something new, but this, as it stands, is the most emotionally resolved ending rooted in the tone of your original pro-WER. Discretion is advised.